The next time you think of winter survival, you probably imagine a warm sleeping bag, a crackling fire, maybe layers of high-tech gear. But during World War II, across frozen forests, mountain passes, and snow-covered fields, thousands of soldiers had none of those things. They weren't just fighting the enemy. They were fighting the cold itself. And in those brutal winters, with supply lines broken and gear lost, they discovered a trick so simple, yet so effective, it kept men alive where the cold could kill faster than bullets. A trick that still works today for campers, preppers, and anyone who believes survival is about knowledge, not equipment. On the European and Eastern fronts, temperatures dropped well below freezing. During the Battle of the Bulge, American troops huddled in foxholes as frostbite spread faster than ammunition. In the east, German soldiers advancing into Russia faced nights colder than -30 degrees Celsius. Sleeping bags were rare, and when they existed, they were heavy canvas sacks that soaked up moisture and froze solid by morning. So when warmth meant survival, soldiers turned to something far older than military science: fieldcraft. They learned that staying alive wasn't about having more gear. It was about understanding how heat moves and how to stop the earth from stealing it. Here's a truth most people overlook. The ground, not the air, is the biggest enemy in the cold. Lie directly on frozen soil or snow, and your body heat drains away like water through a sieve. That's conduction, and it kills quietly. No amount of coats or blankets can help if you're losing warmth through your back. So, the soldiers developed what became known as the ground bed trick, a survival bed built entirely from whatever the land offered. They learned to think from the ground up. Literally, it began with clearing the snow, right down to the dirt, if possible. Then came the base: logs, branches, or bark, stacked to lift the body above the frost line. Over that, layers of pine boughs, straw, hay, or even spare clothing were piled, thick and springy. Each layer trapped dead airspace, forming a natural barrier between skin and soil. 6 to 8 inches of insulation could mean the difference between life and death. When soldiers camped in groups, they built communal platforms, entire forest floors transformed into insulated sleeping decks. Together, their combined body heat created a warm pocket in the middle of a frozen world. This wasn't entirely new. During the Winter War between Finland and the Soviet Union, Finnish troops perfected this technique. They built thick spruce beds, wrapped themselves in greatcoats, and somehow endured nights of -40 degrees Celsius. The secret? Dry insulation. If the branches or straw became damp, they simply replaced them. They didn't carry their warmth. They built it fresh each night. Later, even German and Russian troops copied this method. In a war where equipment froze, tore, or was lost, knowledge like this was worth more than gold. You might think a sleeping bag is better, but the soldiers learned otherwise. Canvas bags of the 1940s absorbed sweat and condensation. At night, they froze stiff as armor plates. And once wet, even down insulation became useless. The ground bed, however, never froze solid. If something got damp, you simply rebuilt it with fresh material. Lightweight, renewable, reliable. No gear required. It wasn't about comfort. It was about survival efficiency. If you ever want to test this for yourself, here's how. Clear the ground. Remove snow or debris until you reach solid earth. Lay a base: logs, sticks, or bark. Anything to lift your body. Add insulation. Stack dry grass, pine boughs, or leaves until your bed feels springy and at least hand-thick. Stay dry. Use your poncho, tarp, or even a jacket as a top layer. Moisture is your real enemy. Share heat. If you're with a group, build close. Soldiers discovered that clustering bodies cut heat loss dramatically. Even today, This setup can outperform cheap sleeping pads because it follows physics, not fashion. The beauty of this method is its universality. In swampy terrain, a raised bed keeps you above moisture, preventing trench foot and disease. In deserts, it shields you from heat rising out of the sand. And in forests, it turns cold dirt into comfort, using nothing but nature's own design. The same logic applies anywhere. Insulate from below. Vent from above. Stay dry. Stay alive. When you study these old wartime tricks, you realize something powerful. Survival isn't about owning the best equipment. It's about understanding your environment and using it. Those WWII soldiers weren't just fighters. They were engineers, problem solvers, and innovators, turning pine branches into mattresses and forests into shelters. Their knowledge outlasted the war. And today, it reminds us that real preparedness isn't bought. It's learned. So the next time someone tells you you're not ready without a sleeping bag or hundreds of dollars worth of gear, remember the men who endured the coldest winters in history with nothing but coats, courage, and ingenuity. Because true survival begins from the ground up. If you found this story useful or inspiring, share it. Not just for history's sake, but to keep these forgotten skills alive. Because every time we learn one of these old lessons, we honor the resilience that built them. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more.